Delicious. Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock. You're with GB News. The top story tonight. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has been briefing his cabinet on possible military strikes. US and British military strikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. According to a report in the Times newspaper, a UK-US response is imminent following attacks on ships and the seizure of a US oil tanker by Iran in the Gulf of Oman. Well, the US President Joe Biden tonight said he was due to make a statement on the potential for American military strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis. Here, the Prime Minister said the UK will continue to take action to protect freedom of navigation and protect lives at sea. That's after he held an emergency cabinet meeting in Downing Street after Iran admitted they had seized the US oil tanker. Meanwhile, Scotland's First Minister, Humza Yousaf, posted on social media saying the UK does not have a good military intervention record in the Middle East, and he's called for MPs to be briefed and allowed to debate and scrutinise any decision to pursue military action that the UK government may propose. In other news today, the official inquiry into the Horizon IT scandal has been grilling the former Post Office investigator Stephen Bradshaw about exactly how much he knew about the faulty software. Mr. Bradshaw has denied that he and his colleagues behaved like mafia gangsters towards sub-postmasters and mistresses who were wrongly accused of theft. He insisted he wasn't an expert on the system, and he defended comments made back in 2012 that he had absolute confidence in Horizon. But at the same time, he admitted to the inquiry he saw hundreds of complaints coming in from sub-postmasters. He's denied allegations of bullying and unprofessional behaviour, saying he also never told any post office worker that they were the only one experiencing issues with the software.
I'm not technically minded with that. I would expect that to come from the people above. If there was an issue, I would expect Fujitsu to inform the post office and the full post office to let us know what the issues are. I was given that statement by Cartwright King and told to put that statement through. In hindsight, after I've put further in my previous statements, there probably should have been another line stating that these are not my words, but the statement is produced as a business statement.
Former Post Office investigator. Well, meanwhile, Fujitsu workers in the West Midlands are set to go on strike later this month in their dispute over pay. It comes amid calls for Fujitsu to lose government contracts over the Horizon IT scandal. About 300 members of the PCS union are set to take part in the walkout on the 17th of January. The union warned it is likely to cause disruption for people filing self-assessment tax returns at the end of the month. Prince William surprised rugby league legends Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield by awarding them with CBEs today. The pair raised more than £15 million for charity since Mr Burrow was diagnosed with motor neurone disease in 2019. The Prince of Wales met the pair at Headingley Stadium, the home of Leeds Rhinos, where both men used to play. He paid tribute to the pair's phenomenal efforts in raising funds and awareness for the disease. That's the news on GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker. This is Britain's News Channel.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. Tonight, keeping it topical, I'm joined by cis-male Josh Howie and our very own XL bully, Leo Kearse. I hope it's going to be difficult trying to translate that. You doing all right? Both in a good mood?
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit sissy.
Is that a different word?
That's heterophobic. Sorry.
More on that later. Let's crack on to the front pages. We'll start with the Daily Mail. They go with UK blitz warning to Iran. The Telegraph says US and UK prepare strikes on Houthi rebel bases. The Times, airstrikes on Houthis after strife in Red Sea. The Guardian says Britain and US poised to launch strikes against Houthi in Yemen. You can see the pattern. The Express goes with Britain and US unite to strike against Iran-backed rebels. And the Daily Star, Sven, I have a year to live at best. And those are your front pages. Get down to business with the Daily Mail, Josh. What are they going with?
UK blitz warning to Iran. Although it's not really to Iran, it's to the Houthis who Iran backs. And a couple of days ago, they sent 21, I think, drones and missiles to American and British warships. And that wasn't a very good idea. Because now, you know, Britain and America are going, well, we've also got some missiles, and we're going to shoot them at you. But this is all really a proxy war. Iran flexing itself through the Houthis, also through Hezbollah in the north of Israel and whatnot. And what other option can the UK do?
It's also a bit of a proxy war, because it feels like all week the US and the UK have been like, oh, listen, if you do one more thing, if you fire another missile or if you do another drone thing near a ship, we're gonna bomb you.
Don't touch us with your missiles.
I bet they don't.
So even at this stage, with it being front page of all the papers, you think it'll just be a saber rattle and nothing more?
That's how World War II started. That's how we got into World War II. Was on the front page of the Mail.
Well,
and that's what pushed us over the edge.
Nobody even knew there was a war until the Daily Mail published it.
Yeah, but people are saying this is a risk of escalation, but surely Josh is right. Well, you can't just sit there and just keep taking the hits.
The ships could just take the long way round. They could go around the Cape of, is it Good Hope?
Yeah.
They could go around there and, you know, it'll take a bit longer to get our flat screen TVs or whatever, but it'll be fine.
I want my flat screen TV now.
By the time it arrives, you'll need
to watch
another
me when I get home.
But it adds cost. It'll absolutely ruin our economy, won't it? All of these things.
Absolutely ruin our economy.
Leo, it's bad for the environment as well, which I'm sure you care about.
Another benefit.
Let's go to the Telegraph. What are they focusing on then, Josh? Hang on.
Oh, the Guardian.
Skip one.
Oh, he's skipping away. He's excited.
It's the Guardian.
Let's go for the Guardian.
The Guardian next. They've got a bunch of stories, but they've got a post office investigator acted like a gangster. So this is the inquiry into the post office Horizon scandal, where 750 postmasters were prosecuted for defrauding the post office. But it turned out to be this Horizon software that was creating errors. So this guy, this investigator, Stephen Bradshaw, he's up in a lot of spotlight thrown on him right now. He's not very popular. He was the person who's going around helping to falsely convict. I mean, I don't know if he knew at the time that he was falsely convicting them. And he's been accused of behaving like a mafia gangster, which seems a bit unfair on the mafia. They've got, you know, moral codes and things. Because he was collecting bounty. He was getting kickbacks for every successful prosecution. He was getting a bonus. So, you know, it was in his... No wonder they got to 750. It's like, you know, parking attendants, parking wardens.
There's more than that as well. There's going to be hundreds more coming forward.
Yeah, and also the worst thing is, so apparently everybody's going to be exonerated, and there's going to be people who were nicking money who are going to like get off with it. It's the whole thing.
I'm not sure if that's the worst thing.
That is definitely the worst thing. No, I'll tell you what. Like, so many of these people, they could have got organised. They could have rioted in the streets. They could have built an armour-plated bulldozer and gone down to the post office and run it over and said, "Listen, we didn't do it. It was this stupid software." But they didn't. They were just like, "Oh well, if the state says this, then it must have been us," because they're postmasters and they're part of the system as well. The system is broken. It was broken then. It's broken now, and this is just going to get worse because we're seeing the state expand and get more and more power in people's lives, and people won't be able to push back against it.
The reason we got to this point is that many people did give up the last 20 years of their life to fight for justice, which is now being enabled, and then the fact is it's ridiculous that it took this long and now the government's stepping up and everything.
They didn't use armoured bulldozers.
OK, that's true, they didn't use armoured bulldozers, but this is also, like you say, it wasn't just a protection racket in terms of this guy getting in and getting a bit of a commission or whatever it is the post office, like they overpaid, like they said, "Oh, you owe us £94,000 because whatever," and they paid that back, that money they didn't owe. Actually, people put themselves into debt or went bankrupt, and the post office made huge profits from all of that, and now they're being offered like £75,000 each or whatever, and some of them paid way more than that. So it's ridiculous. And now they're saying that the billion that they put aside, the government, isn't going to be sufficient to pay everybody. And you've got this guy here now, obviously. That was some terrible scheduling when they were doing, because this obviously has been going on for a while now. This this guy's had his date booked in probably like 2 years ago, and just happens to coincide with the TV series coming out and whatnot. So it's all a little bit unfair on him, but at the same time he comes across as a little bit like, "I was just a small cog following the orders," and whatnot.
I mean, but he clearly wasn't like a mafia type, because if he sent you a horse's head, it would have been left with your neighbours. That's the difference in knowing the post office. I've got 3 more of those to try and cram in at some point. But I think it's more distraction that a lot of the news is about Fujitsu. And look, clearly made some software that was not good. But that's not criminal. I'll tell you what's criminal. What's more criminal than bad software is sending people to prison to hide how bad the software is. Like, I once installed Windows Vista, which was terrible, but I never sent anyone down for it. And that's the difference. So you can make bad software.
And the common sense check to say, like, "Oh, have 900 people defrauded, suddenly decided to defraud the post office independently, or is there a fault in the software?" You know, just the basic sense. And also, victims were told they could only plead guilty to make it all go away if they did not blame Horizon. So it sounds like they knew it was Horizon, and prosecutions continued even when it had been proven and was widely known that this
guy who they're focusing on admitted that around the office everybody knew that there were issues or there were supposed issues. You think at that point he would go, "Oh, well, maybe there's something to it. It's being reported in the press and whatever." So to feign like total ignorance about it is disingenuous after the fact, absolutely.
To the Telegraph, unsurprisingly, what are they focusing on, Josh?
They are going with Met murder detectives facing cuts as homicides rise. This article is, again, I'd like to use my big word of the day, disingenuous, because if the murders are a bit on the increase, overall they're actually going down. But there's a bunch of people who work on homicides, and there's it seems on here about like 20 in a team, and they're talking about removing 1 or 2. I'm not saying it's easy to solve murders or whatever. I'm sure that some murders are like, he did it, he's got the knife in his hand or whatever. But they're saying that there's shortages across other parts of the police force, including them in the Met, and where you've got trainees having to deal with rapes and whatever. Now, that is unacceptable. And, of course, what they should do is just properly fund the police so that but even if they do that, there's still going to be that lack of experience. So they need the murder detectives are usually the best, or the people who work within that department, and it seems like they need to take a bit of that expertise about how to properly solve crimes. And look, anybody who's watched The Wire knows what I'm talking about here.
Leo, from your experience, is this going to help?
Well, yeah, because I was a criminal intelligence analyst, and to be honest, a lot of this should be automated. The police aren't the best, and they are maybe the best in the country, but still not, you know, up to speed on exploiting technology to reduce this. Because a lot of the stuff is just done manually, going through man-hours of CCTV and smartphone data, and a lot of that. I mean, if you look at other parts of the criminal justice system, so you know the discovery section of legal cases. It's a lot of it is automated. They're using AI, so I think the Met need to be doing that as well because it's way cheaper than using actual human eyes to go.
Yeah, it seems like they're saying a lot of the stuff. Yeah, is just doing things that seem actually quite simple.
Yeah,
pulling up records, getting footage, whatever. So. Yeah.
Get trainees on that.
Can go to the 21st century, dudes.
Yeah, try Control F. You can just search. Yeah. It's amazing. Finally, we move to the Times. Leo, what are they going with?
So the Times have boom time for mini nuclear power plants across Britain. So this is about modular mini nuclear reactors. Normally, you know, your traditional nuclear power station takes ages. We're talking like 15 years to build. So Hinkley Point C and all the rest of it, whatever they're called. But these modular nuclear reactors. Are built. They're built off-site. They're constructed in a factory, and you can assemble them very quickly. They're also smaller, so you can put them where they're needed instead of having to plug in the network to take the electricity to different places. They're manufactured by Rolls-Royce, an amazing British success story, engineering marvel. Although Britain has signed a big deal for nuclear reactors, these modular nuclear reactors, but not used Rolls-Royce. Because why would we support our own businesses? So we've signed a deal with Westinghouse, apparently, which I think is Canadian-American.
Lovely. There's a thing where people say it takes ages to build nuclear reactors, and it's one of those stats that carries a lie in it. If you look at the average, the mean average, because there was one in America that took 40 years to build, then everyone goes, it takes over a decade, because that's really skewed it. But your median is down about 7. In parts of the world, they can knock them together in 3 to 4 years, just because we've got so much regulation, so much triple testing happening.
Yeah, and you don't need regulation when you're dealing with radioactive materials.
This seems about right. Yeah, have a crack at it. And the modular ones are more expensive. The big downside of nuclear power, the expense.
Yes, but then they want to, by 2050, I think, get a quarter of our electricity coming from power. I mean, this is a massive turnaround for nuclear power. Jimmy Carr he was like the head of PR for nuclear power, basically. And I think he quit too soon. I think he'd be making some crazy money at the moment.
Fair enough. That's it for part 1. But coming up, we've got foreign criminals being sent home, XL bullies being sent to Scotland, and Brummies being sent back to Birmingham. Find out who has it worse. Up next.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel. Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen here with Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. We move to the Independent. Josh, South Africa is suing Israel as if they didn't have enough on their plate right now.
Yeah, Fetterman says South Africa should focus on its own continent as it brings case of genocide against Israel. Fetterman here, John Fetterman, he's the Pennsylvania senator, and he's basically said it's appalling that South Africa's doing that, and he said, given their history there, and people have said, well, there's not been any genocide in South Africa as such, but also there's no genocide in Gaza either, so that makes sense. But what he's talking about, he's saying, is like places like Sudan, close by, where like 7 million people have been displaced. And I think what he's really referring to is the hypocrisy of South Africa, where they, and I'm quoting at someone who's wrote this on a tweet, but basically Russia, Syria, Sudan, Iran, South Africa has not voted against or they abstained any UN resolutions that criticise, basically. They voted against any UN resolutions that criticise them. So the idea they're coming out against Israel specifically when all these other countries have arguably done great human rights atrocities, and it is, again, it's hypocrisy. To accuse, they're saying they have like genocidal intent or whatever like that. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, it could do it. And the figures quoted here, this is the Independent going, 23,000 Palestinians have been killed, you know, most of them being women and children. What they don't say is they're quoting directly Hamas propaganda. Those figures don't into account, miraculously, that any terrorists have been killed by any means, because that's what Hamas is saying. So blindly following this narrative.
I think you can trust the Hamas health minister when it comes to statistics.
Yes, of course. Well, that's it. So it's very frustrating that, and there is, the reason why it's also frustrating is because there's a weird, by accusing Israel of genocide when there is no genocide going there, when only, it's a weird inversion when the whole world essentially stood by within living memory and a third of Jews were wiped out, to then turn around and go, oh, well, these guys are now committing genocide. It inverts what happened to Jewish people. So I think it's a great offensive. By the way, Nelson Mandela was a big Zionist, and also they're saying it's like apartheid and whatever. If you go to Israel, it's so mental to try and say that Israel is apartheid when you've got members of parliament, members of their Knesset are Arab Israeli, when you've got Arab Israeli doctors, and you've got the High Court judge can like put the previous Jewish president in jail or whatever. So the idea it's apartheid is absolutely ridiculous. It's mental.
Leo, is Fetterman's comment just a bit of a swing and a miss, though? That he could have made a better point than...
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed Fetterman managed to get a sentence out straight. I mean, I'm impressed with his diction here. This is he's not the best. Actually, I shouldn't mock him. He did have an injury, but yeah, I mean, I think the reality of the matter is, yes, South Africa is singling out Israel, and why is it singling out Israel? The reason everybody singles out Israel when they don't focus on other countries, but the crisis in Gaza is getting worse, and it's becoming a real. It's not just about the bombing; it's about basic calories getting into the area. You've got 2.2 million people crammed into this, an increasingly smaller area, and it's just going to, until the operation ends, it's going to fester and breed resentment and breed antipathy towards Israel.
I definitely think there's a lot of that going on anyway. But yes, but they have been. The trucks are going through. What's happening, unfortunately, is Hamas steals the trucks. And there's like evidence, there's all these video footage of drones of you see Hamas, those trucks going through the border. Israel lets them through. Israel's basically saying you could bring in as much aid as you want. And then it goes through the border and Hamas steals it. And you've actually seen the Gazan population rebelling against Hamas to get the food that they need. So it is a disgusting humanitarian crisis, of course it is, but it's Hamas. Give them the food.
The Telegraph, Josh, only one foreign prisoner is sent home every week, and you'd think you'd get the hint by now.
Yeah, only one foreign prisoner sent home a week to their home country to serve sentence. So this is one of these mental stories where it turns out that we've got 10,500 foreign nationals serving time in UK jails, or English and Welsh jails. Costs £40,000 each a year, and then the government set up some deals with different countries, including like Jamaica, where they was it Jamaica where they said we'll give you like 25 million to help your new jails and whatever, and then they made these deals where the prisoners can sort of say, actually, you know what, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Just send them back. Why did you make these stupid deals?
Josh has been fully radicalised and read. This is amazing to see.
I've never been pro-criminals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the fact we've got a clogged up prison service here, massively oversubscribed. We need to get these people out, and we're spending millions of pounds on them.
Yeah, and also they talk about the sort of early removal scheme, which is, they talk about how it keeps Britain safer by removing prisoners. What they do is they let prisoners out of jail early and then just release them into the freedom in their original country, which isn't keeping Britain safe when they can just jump on something that floats and come back in again.
Well, on that happy note, let's crack on to the Telegraph, Leo. The SNP is banning XL bullies. Short, aggressive and sometimes violent. The SNP and nationalist politicians in Scotland. Everyone saw that coming.
Very good. So, XL bully dogs are to be banned in Scotland. Humza Yousaf has announced in a humiliating about-turn after his refusal to follow Rishi Sunak's crackdown led to an influx of the breed from England. So basically, Humza Yousaf could have just banned XL bullies at the same time as Rishi Sunak. They were invited to do it, but obviously, they're, I was going to say Scottish there, but they're obstinate. He's obstinate. He wants to, always be different and always have some, wedge he can drive between England and Scotland. So he didn't. But then what happened was, everyone in England that's got to get rid of their XL bully is selling them to people in Glasgow. So then, we've just dealt with a knife crime epidemic in Glasgow, and now people are going to get their faces ripped off with XL bullies instead. So it just shows the idiocy of a devolved parliament. It doesn't do anything of any value or provide any worth to the people of Scotland. It just bangs a relentless drum for independence, and even like the minutiae of policy, which this basically is. Humza can't, he can't carry. Man, it's like watching somebody trying to carry a blancmange on roller skates.
Can we now sell them to Isle of Man? I guess that's the next one that has a different legal system.
I guess so. I mean, it's just utter incompetence, and they're trying to sort of blame the UK government now, which is ridiculous. A week ago, Mr. Yousaf was saying how we didn't need it, we already have this brilliant, tight regime and whatever, and now suddenly a week later, it's just it's humiliating for him, and it was so easily avoided. It's such bad politics, but to take a contrary position just to be contrary, it's ridiculous. And now look, it's backfired on him again.
I knew it was a bad idea to put a doggy door in Hadrian's Wall.
The Daily Star, Josh, be careful saying go back to Brummyland. It's offensive and might get you sent to Coventry.
Yeah, go back to Brummyland notes was being treated as a hate crime by police. Now, this is in Aberystwyth, beautiful town-ish. In Wales, and Wales is a particularly woke part of the UK. They're not devolved fully, but their local government is put through some ridiculous measures, and they're interpreted. So this note was left, and it's not a nice note, but the fact that it's been sort of looked into as a hate crime. Now, look, if if Brummyland was some sort of code, like for there's a large Asian community. Then you could sort of argue that it's, that's what racists do. They use codes and they go, well, I'm not being racist. I'm just saying Brummyland, but you
just invented a code.
Well, I'm just saying that fine, right, I'm done. but if not, it's totally ridiculous because, as we all know, it's a horrible accent.
But I mean, if you think this is stupid, wait until you hear about every single other type of hate crime. It's all a nonsense. It's all, basically, I don't like that person's accent, or, this. And also, the police are they've got the resources to deal with notes, handwritten notes left on doors. We just heard how they're slashing the murder detectives. This is an absolute nonsense.
If the murderer left a note, as they often do in Agatha Christie things.
If you look at the note, though, I think we've got a photo of it that says, "You're yours." Take you're yours with it. That writing, by the way, is yours. I think that this writing, this handwriting, is pure psycho.
It's very distinct.
It's very. That's the easiest.
Polygons.
Isn't it like Yao Yao?
What Yao Yao? What is?
Well, that's Yao Yao. That's
Yao Yao. Is that?
I went.
So I pronounce it you're yours.
You're so posh.
So I'm an idiot, and my accent's terrible
offensive.
as well.
That's what it is.
Sorry.
To the Birmingham people. That's part 2 in the can, but part 3, Elon Musk is banning some words on X, and on TikTok, there are anti-aging creams for kids. Either that or they're not kids, and that cream really works. Find out more next.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Headliners. To the Times, Leo. And a judge has called children snowflakes, and there's a strong chance they might cry about it.
Yeah, so this judge says don't let children become snowflakes. This is Judge Rupert Lowe. This is about a father who breached a court non-molestation order. By the way, this isn't about, he wasn't molesting the kids and the judge is like, don't be snowflakes. This is, the non-molestation order really needs to be renamed, because all it is he can't go within 100 metres of his ex-partner's home. So there's nothing about molestation there as far as I know. So I feel bad for him for that, you know what I mean? That's like, I think actual paedophiles get like, you know, less damagingly unnamed orders against them. But anyway, this is a bit of a non-story. So he went within the 100 metres because he wanted to drop his kids off. They're like 8 and 9, I think. He wanted to drop them off and watch them walk to the door so they'd be safe. In fairness, he lives in Britain, so there is a good chance of every 100 metres you walk in London, you get stabbed several times. But yeah, so this judge is saying, like, oh, why don't you let them walk everywhere? And it's like, I'll tell you why. Like, this judge says, oh, in 1971, 80% of children walked to school, and by 2023, it was 25%. Yeah, what changed in that time, Judge? What did your generation do to wreck this country? It used to be a homogenous, high-trust society, and now it isn't, and that's your fault. So don't judge this, even though that is his job, judging people. Don't judge this man. Like, I think we changed the country, so it's different now.
There were definitely paedophiles in the 70s. I think it's just that people didn't care.
I've never heard of any 70s paedophiles. And I'm sure if they did exist, they'd be easily noticeable.
Well, I think the issue is, nowadays parents love their kids more. I think that's more what it comes down. But also, he got within 30 metres. 30 metres is still far. Yeah. Like, he had a 100-metre ban, so he took him to 30 metres. 30 metres is a respectable distance where he can save it. I feel like the judge here is just making, like, I think it's a valid excuse that he had. What do you think?
Well, even the judge says you should have applied to have the order changed. Right. So, I mean, the judge should do that during this handing out.
But I think he's just trying to... I think the judge is more like trying to justify his position of, like, being, you should have done this, but, oh, yeah, kids can take whatever. Well, look, they're 8 and they're 9. I don't want to let my 8 and 9 walk 100 metres by themselves in London. And I think 30 metres is, like, you're still far. You're not going to, I don't know what's going on in their relationship, but it's still far enough to just be far away and see the kids are safe. I mean, and it means he's a good dad.
To The Guardian, Josh, 10-year-olds are using anti-aging creams. If you use too much, you look like an egg.
You look like...
that was the other option.
Oh, okay. So, that'd be... children as young as 10 demanding anti-aging products, says UK dermatologist. I suppose it's a big trend on social media. And my daughter used them. She's 7. But she looks like she's 6.
It doesn't look it down.
But they're really expensive. And these dermatologists are saying, actually, it's not designed for you. First of all, they're very, very expensive. I know that because my wife uses them and they do work. But they're also bad for young people's skin. So whilst they say, wash your face and things like that, it's become sort of a trend thing. But really this ties into a larger movement of also young women in particular having plastic surgery, like 18, 19-year-olds getting these lip fillers, getting Botox even at like 18, and they look weird. And they
look older.
Yeah,
they get it done. Like, if you get it done too young, like if I got it done, I'd probably look better. But wait till you're my age. You know what I mean?
And you do that, and so beauty standards have changed. And I was outside some makeup shop somewhere, and that was the photo. They had the photos of the pouting, whatever. And they could be 18, they could be 40. It's this weird.
This is why it's almost like the phrase is wrong. It's not anti-aging. People don't want to look younger in general all the way back down to 0. You want to look younger back towards your peak.
Yeah.
And if you're 10, you ain't there yet. You want to go in the other direction if you want to look better. So the idea of kids who are 10 wanting to look younger, you've missed the entire point of the beauty industry, but someone's worked out how to get money out of you.
Yeah, this is all about social media, particularly TikTok, which is the fentanyl of society, pushing this stuff on young kids who shouldn't even be on TikTok.
I'm looking forward to being on my peak, by the way.
Any day now. We're waiting for it. The Daily Mail, Leo, claims that drag queens in the US military are making it weaker. Not if the next war ends in a dance-off.
So, which it probably would, the way things...
Hey, look, Mark Dolan's trying to sneak into the studio. You've already had your 2 hours on TV.
30 yards away, you know the drill.
What have you forgotten, Mark?
I've got so much more to say about the news, you see. But actually, it's in safe hands. Stephen Allen, what a talent.
I bet you all thought he just wore a suit all the time, but actually...
Nothing on the bottom half is the weird thing.
Yeah.
I thought he was coming in to tell you you're double parked or something. So...
Bye.
Getting back to the show. This Army veteran is going to tell Congress tomorrow, or today if you're watching this on Thursday morning, that drag queens, diversity, equity and inclusion and the surge of leftist values in the military are making the US weaker and leading to the wrong people in combat in the Army. Apparently they've been pushing all kinds of crazy stuff on military bases. They've had critical race theory lessons, drag queen shows.
Paid for by the government.
Paid for by the government, of course. And
training workshops on white privilege and pronoun usage. So what we've seen is like a generation of army families just stopping sending their kids aren't going into the army, and the American Army is facing a recruitment crisis. It's missed its 2023 target by 41,000 people, which is a bit worrying when it looks like we're heading to a massive world war, which might be another incentive not to sign up. But really, it comes down to this: you've got all this like anti-straight white male propaganda being pushed by the army, and then who's going to be like, oh, brilliant, I'm going to sign up for this regime that hates me. I'm going to fight for this country that hates me now. It's ridiculous. So hopefully Trump will get back in and people will want to sign up again.
There is a discrepancy between the number of officers, percentage of officers in the Army in America. African Americans are 20%, but only 12% amongst the officers. So if that makes sense. So there's a discrepancy there. There's a discrepancy with Hispanic, 18% to 9%, and then white officers are overrepresented, 68% to 51% in the lower ranks. So there is a discrepancy there. Now, I'm just pointing it out, and I'm just saying that Biden's government, I don't agree with these, drag queen special things and the DEI stuff, but at the same time, you would, in an ideal society, would hope there would be this.
All right. So in an ideal society, why do we have 76% NBA players black? Why don't we have absolute racial equity in basketball?
I think we should.
Slow the game down, make it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right, to the Daily Mail, Josh, calling a woman cis isn't allowed on Twitter, and it is a chat-up line in Norfolk.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
As long as it's not written down, it kind of works.
Elon Musk sparks new row after posting on X that cis is a heterophobic word, as YouTuber Hank Green says he's lost and blah, blah, blah. And a majority of poll agrees with him. Only 65%, though, agree with Elon Musk, which I'm surprised because I thought it would be more, seeing how apparent that it... I would say, though, there's an argument whether it's actually heterophobic or not. Because really it just means that you're just the same sex that you were born into. So it's got nothing to do with your sexuality. Saying that, it's really just a counter word to anybody who's not part of the LGBTQIA plus monarchy. So really what it is it's a signifier that you are it's virtue signaling that you agree with this ideology that is a made-up religion, essentially.
See, back in the day, for those of us who are like sciencey folk, university, you get taught trans and cis as the way of pointing out where functional groups are on a chain.
Yeah.
So it was this innocuous
molecules.
Yeah, no, I remember them. They came up. But it felt innocuous when you learn it from that. But I guess what you're saying is now there's a new interpretation that's been taken.
Yeah, I mean, when you learned it, when you applied it to organic chemistry or whatever, it wasn't being used in a cultural and societal way. And as Josh says, it's just a tribal marker. So when you use it, it's like putting your pronouns in your email signature. It's telling everybody, I'm in this tribe. Mm-hmm. And then also there's this compelled speech, and the attacking anybody who isn't in the tribe. And I mean, it's not. I think the reason it was only 65% supported it is because a lot of people, even if they think cis is silly, they think identity politics is so stupid that they're not going to say that it's offensive.
Yeah.
Is there any question about, it's weird that Elon Musk was very much about free speech and absolutely not banning anything, and he's making this so apparent that he's banning it. Is he just doing an Elon Musk and just getting publicity?
He's trolling.
Yeah.
But so because what it is it's expecting everybody else to define themselves by what you're not. Does that make sense?
It's like me demanding that you call yourselves non-Scots.
Yeah, or you guys.
Yeah, that is in my bio, though.
Which would make me feel a lot safer.
You guys.
And if you don't, it's literal genocide against Scottish people.
You guys are hairy.
They do have the dogs at the moment, though, so don't pick on them. The Guardian, Leo, in climate change news, the Dutch are being sued over their emissions, presumably from their ovens.
So the Dutch Caribbean... Oh, I get that one now.
What's a Dutch oven?
You know, surely you've
when you
dabbled.
fart under a duvet. Somebody's probably doing it right now, watching it.
I don't know. But okay. Yeah. Why is it why?
I'd ask the Dutch. I don't know. I don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm doing a headliner's oven.
Oh, no.
So
Get Dolan back, he smells nice.
The Dutch Caribbean islanders are suing the Netherlands over climate change. This is the citizens of Bonaire, nice name for a place. They're filing a formal legal challenge as research shows that part of the island will be submerged by 2025. So they're suing over something that hasn't happened yet, that's caused by the weather, which those are two things that seem quite, how are you going to pin the weather on someone? And especially when it hasn't happened. I don't know, maybe courts have changed from, actually needing actus rea and mens rea, but which are two great bands. But yeah, apparently, this is going to be an issue with low-lying islands. They're going to start disappearing, and they're not protected by coral reefs. So the scientists say. I mean, like a couple of decades ago, apparently we were heading for an ice age. So let's just wait and see, maybe.
And it's also interesting that great argument of the UK is only responsible for 1% of global emissions. Surely, in court, not that I'm the Dutch lawyer, but you'd point that out, that if you're about to be covered by water, why are you just blaming the Dutch?
What they're trying to do is force the Dutch government's hand to invest more time and money into investment to prevent these things that are happening. Because the water is rising, it has already submerged parts of the island, the weather has changed and is making it more difficult for people. The coral reef has disappeared and they get 100,000 visitors to dive the coral reefs. So all these things are happening, but they're just basically trying to bring attention to it, so the Dutch government pulls their thumb out and says, all right, we're going to start...
Out the dike.
Yeah.
A Dutch lawyer, by the way, is when you get a lawyer under a duvet.
That's it for part 3.
Yes,
that's it for part 3. But join us after the break for slang terms and racist jokes. And normally that's just in the break. We'll see you soon.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Guardian, Josh, and TfL may put fake steering wheels on DLR trains because they can't actually be used, like indicators on BMWs.
Yeah, TfL considering installing fake steering wheels at front of the DLR trains. It turns out it's 30 years since I went there that first weekend. My parents took me down. It was like so exciting, and they're at the front. You sit at the front, and everyone wants to get to the front because it's like, oh, look at me, I can pretend. So now they're actually going to stick a pretend driving wheel on, and so little kids can play and stickers or whatever. It's a nice little idea. But really, what would be good is if they replaced actual tube drivers with these stickers.
Yeah.
That would be what I'm.
Or replace Sadiq Khan with a sticker.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
There would be less knife crime. I don't know if I said that legally for Ofcom reasons. I take it back.
Fair enough. Because I'm not.
You can see out the front.
Like the end of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Just going on and on.
Yeah. The Daily Mail, Leo, and an airline has apologised for a joke about Vietnam's currency. Not the first time someone's dong has got them in trouble. I would now like to apologise for that joke, obviously.
Well, they apologised as well. So this is Australian airline Jetstar, which has apologised over a racist joke, their words, the newspaper's words, not mine, after customers vowed to never fly with the airline again. So the airline mocked the currency of Vietnam in a Facebook post saying, sorry, but Vietnamese money being called dong is objectively funny, and $1 million dong is $65, and I basically have $65, which means I'm a millionaire. It's a very funny it's a very funny joke. Josh gets it. Josh gets it. What it is dong is another word for, I guess, a penis or
penis.
That kind of thing. And so a lot of people like Hugh Bowie.
Get that camera off me.
Hugh Bowie, Hoi Bowie, the boss of language education company PTE Master, who's Vietnamese or Vietnamese origin, says he will no longer be flying with the budget airline. I don't know, the Scottish people don't get bothered by this. Like, the Scottish pound is called the beef curtain, and we have no issue having it mocked at all. I think people are being a bit too thin-skinned.
What's the exchange rate for a beef curtain?
2 beef curtains for 1 dong.
Nice.
The Daily Mail now, Josh. AI has created an hour-long comedy special. Still, we thought that AI was going to cause nuclear war, so this is a far better way to bomb.
George Carlin's daughter blasts the hour-long AI-generated comedy special starring her father 15 years after he died, saying no machine will ever replace his genius. I don't think she even really needs to say that. I don't know if many humans will replace his genius. He was one of the comedy greats. He has 14 real specials. He's incredibly prolific as well. And also one of those rare comics who just... I just did the same 20 minutes for the last 20 years, but, he was just generate hours and hours worth of material and constantly staying relevant.
Yeah, but he's just talking.
What,
it was just boring talking. All he did was tell, like, sort of American boomer hippies who'd failed at life. He told them that, none of their problems were their fault. It's like, hey, man, it's the system keeping you down, man. It's the system. He's basically like,
That's a good impression.
He's basically like Telegram.
A UAI.
So they fed it into like QAnon.
The point is they fed all this stuff into an AI. This AI has come up with this ridiculous set and they do one of the jokes and it's really bad. I don't even want to repeat it. It is offensive, but it's also a sign of what's going to happen in the future, where my bad jokes will be replaced by AI's even worse ones.
Has he got any material about the Vietnamese currency? Because I might need some help there. The Daily Mail, Leo, a statue of Greta Thunberg has been moved. Why? Was she a slave owner too?
Yeah. So Greta Thunberg's £24,000 statue is moved from a university's main entrance after furious students slammed it as a waste of money. So this is the University of Winchester, put up this bronze sculpture, and students immediately got furious about it, saying the money could be spent on more meaningful environmental.
Is that the real her?
Branding the memorial a greenwash. Yeah, there's a picture of it there. Man, this generation just don't like statues, is what I've found out. Like the Greta Thunberg, it's like you don't like the slave owners, you don't like Greta Thunberg. What do you want a statue of? I mean, is there anything you'd like to see commemorated in bronze at all?
I feel sorry for them. They're paying money their whole lives now. I was speaking to somebody, they're paying like 300 quid a month from their wages. It's really unfair. And so the fact that some of it would go to this £24,000 ridiculous virtue signalling statue.
But they get a really useful gender studies degree for that money.
Right, see if we can fit this in a minute. The Daily Mail, Josh, and they've added more words to the dictionary, even though most people don't know all the ones that's already in there, which is unpropitious.
Ooh. Yeah, so slanguists of the world unite. Yeah, so basically some new words. We know things like catfish, whatever. A Monday hammer is a sledgehammer, which is like a big one because it feels like Monday because when it hits you. But I like particularly Chekhov's no, I don't like any of them. Oh yeah, a dumb phone is a phone that is like it doesn't have like not
the
an
opposite
iPhone.
of a smartphone.
Yeah, so a dumb phone, I like that one, or sort of drug dealer's phone. Maybe. Yeah. Do you like any of these words?
I don't know if it's in here, but gaslighting is a new word that I love. So instead of gaslighting is when everybody tells, like somebody who's objectively disgusting that they look amazing. Wow, yes, you go, girl, you slay, queen. And then they're all like, oh, yes, I feel amazing. And they don't.
That's good. And talky talk, which is childish, foolish, or inconsequential talk. That's me. Talky talk.
Often this show.
That's going to be if I ever get a show, that's what I'm calling it. Talky talk.
With Josh Howie. Well, that's about everything sorted. The show's nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Friday's front pages. We'll start with the Daily Mail. UK blitz warning to Iran. The Telegraph goes with US and UK prepare strikes on Houthi rebel bases.
Really switched his voice.
The Times, airstrikes on Houthis after strife in Red Sea. The Guardian says Britain and US poised to launch strikes against Houthis in Yemen. The Express says Britain and US unite to strike against Iran-backed rebels. And the Daily Star, Sven, I have a year to live at best. And those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to Josh Howie and Leo Kearse. We will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. when Josh will return with Simon Evans and Nick Dixon. Have a good one.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update with me, Annie Shuttleworth from the Met Office. Tomorrow will be a cloudy day for many of us. However, where it has been gloomy in recent days across much of Scotland, we'll see a chance of more sunshine. High pressures in charge across the UK, and as a result, it's staying dry for the bulk of the country through the rest of the week. We've got quite a lot of cloud, though, coming in off the east coast through this evening, spreading across much of Wales, into northern England, southern Scotland, even parts of eastern Northern Ireland seeing some of that low cloud, so it will be milder where the cloud cover persists. However, where we do see the clear spells across Scotland and Northern Ireland, is going to be a cold and frosty start tomorrow. We could be down as low as -8. However, as I said, there will be more sunshine in these areas lasting through much of the day. Further south, though, the cloud will linger for many areas. We could see some sunny spells coming through across parts of Wales and parts of the southwest by the afternoon, but in general, it'll be a little bit of a cloudier day. Temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees in the south. That's just below average for the time of year. Across the north, we'll start to see some drizzly rain sinking southwards. That will sink further southwards throughout Saturday, perhaps bringing some hill snow, but it's behind that we see the cold weather arriving to the north of Scotland for Saturday afternoon. And it's in the evening when we start to see a risk of some snow showers falling across Scotland. But for many of us, through Sunday, it should stay dry, bright and a little bit chilly. See you later.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Kearse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK. Here comes a train. Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the